Are you looking to grow revenues, increase profitability, or obtain financing? If so, you came to the right place.
Running a business is all about leadership. How do you become a better leader? Learn from the successful entrepreneurs and business owners how to lead your organization more effectively. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business, to help you succeed with your host, Andrew Frazier, Business Growth Pro and CFO and founder of the Small Business Pro University. Every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, we're joined by experienced entrepreneurs and business owners who share their secrets to success via live stream. Also, every Friday morning, we release a new podcast episode. Either way, you will learn about developing your business leadership skills from our roster of highly performing guest experts. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbprou.com.
Good evening and welcome back to Leadership Live at 8:05. Of course, I'm your host, Andrew Frazier, and excited to be here with you once again on Tuesday night. As you know, as a business owner, it's one of the most challenging things you can do because there's so many things you need to know to do it successfully, and you can't possibly know them all. That's why we created Leadership Live at 8:05 as a way to help entrepreneurs and business owners continue to develop their knowledge and leadership skills so they can move their business forward faster and easier. At the end of the day, your business can only go as far as you're prepared to lead it. So what we do is bring in leaders and business experts with an emphasis and knowledge around small business, because smaller businesses need to be run differently than larger businesses. So always appreciate everybody joining us. I'm looking forward to a great show tonight. Tonight we're going to be talking about something that's very important. I'll walk you through the masterpreneur journey that I created, which really outlines the 5 key steps from startup to scaling and really how to move forward more successfully. And at each step, there's a key knowledge and key skills and key things you have to make happen to move to the next step. So our guest, Anthony Conover, our topic is working on the future of your business. So that's step 4 along the masterpreneur journey, and I'll walk you through the journey once we get into the show. But most people never even successfully complete step 3. So it's a big deal that he's in step 4 and working on step 4. So how did he do it? That's what we want to find out tonight and learn from him so that you can take advantage and be able to do that as well. So let me invite Anthony on and, we'll get started. Hey, Anthony, how you doing tonight?
Good evening. Thanks. How are you?
Right. Great. Thanks for joining me. You're looking much better than me, but you probably had an easier day than I did.
Yeah. Maybe on the outside looking in.
Yeah. Well, there's no easy days for business owners. There's always something, but I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us tonight.
Yes, no. Thank you for extending the opportunity to me.
Excellent. And, I think it'll be extra insightful because, we've been working together some recently. And so I have, some understanding of where you are, what you're doing, and, helping you move through the masterpreneur journey successfully. So, we're going to sort of focus on that as well. So, but before we get started, we know each other, but the audience doesn't know you. So if you could take a few minutes to, talk to people, about your journey, how you got to where you are and some of the key steps along the way.
Yes. So we've been in business for about 28 years. Started off just me and another gentleman, but continued to grow it. So to go back to the genesis of it all, my name is Anthony Conover. My company is Conover Building Maintenance. And along the way, we've also developed a staffing endeavor too. So CBN staffing as well, which we established in 2015. And that's grown. But our core business has been the janitorial business. And basically, we started in 1998. And just along the way, just continued to plug away. Didn't have someone like Andrew in my life who could give direction. So I did a lot of reading, studying other people who were successful, and along the way, just continue to set goals and continue to try to focus on becoming the person who spent less time working in my business and spending more time working on my business. Because I found that if you're going to grow, you have to allocate enough time to grow the business. If you're spending your time working in the business, then it limits your ability to grow the business. So along the way, learn some principles in terms of taking time each day, to set your goals, to focus on your business, to read some successful books, to study some successful people. So along the way, such books as Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People, Napoleon Hill, How to Think and Grow Rich. Some other books along the way was John Maxwell, Developing the Leader Within. Another book, How Successful People Think. So just really trying to focus on becoming a better business person. However, I found that you reach a plateau. And once you reach that plateau, you have to become better at your skills, better at your business, and really understanding, the operation of a business, right? The ability to understand how to build infrastructure, the ability to manage your numbers, to know your key performance indicators, which I think for most business people, that's something that should be developed early on. Because if you learn how to develop or to identify the key performance indicator, and then continue, to learn how to scale those and to continue to learn how to implement those and to become more efficient in doing those, then that helps you to grow your business more efficiently and also more effectively as well. So Andrew has been instrumental in the past 4 months of really helping me to get to that level of identifying the key performance indicators and to really focus on those indicators. And as he's seen, I'm definitely a work in progress in that area. Hence, in saying all that, we've been able to grow my business to about 140 employees. We've grown it nicely. I have a nice management team. However, my goal is, and I'm sure Andrew's going to ask me this question down the road, but in 5 years, I want two options. I want the ability to be able to sell my business to a private equity company, or to have the option of having a key leader or leaders run my business. And I only have to focus on maybe an hour to a week of running the business, but still have sustained growth and still have, the infrastructure in place that those who are in key leadership positions, that they're competent enough and they're better than me in the areas that they're working on, so that I don't have to continue to coach them. And then the business still continues to grow and it grows efficiently, and more importantly, that it's also profitable as well. So that's just the points I have for the time being. If Andrew has any more questions or insights that he likes me to focus on, I'd gladly share them.
Okay, excellent, excellent. So definitely we're going to chat about sort of your business, what you're doing. But before we do that, I just want to take a minute. We do the show through the Small Business Pro University,
Yes.
and it's one of our brain trust initiatives. Our goal is to empower entrepreneurs to learn, profit, and grow. And here's a little bit about what we do and who we are. Many small businesses experience low or no revenue growth, and the owners are not making enough money. I founded Small Business Pro University to help you break that cycle by empowering you with greater knowledge and enhanced skills to lead your organization more effectively. Over the past 15 years, I've collaborated with organizations like the Small Business Development Center, Rising Tide Capital, Empower the Village, NJMEP, Rutgers University, and SCORE to work one-on-one with over 1,000 business owners and teach tens of thousands of people about business. My experience includes serving as a naval officer, managing businesses, graduating from MIT, earning an MBA from NYU, and achieving the CFA designation, which has prepared me to accomplish my mission of helping 1,000,008 business owners to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth by 2028. My vision is to create the ultimate business ecosystem for entrepreneurs. Small Business Pro University empowers entrepreneurs like you to run their businesses more professionally and create sustainable enterprises. We employ my proven proprietary Masterpreneur Playbook framework to guide your journey along the Masterpreneur path and facilitate your Masterpreneur evolution to work on your business and scale faster and easier. Small Business Pro University provides access to valuable resources, partnerships, and relationships that will help you to sell more, maximize profit, and finance growth. Our Masterpreneur initiatives include the Small Business Pro Network, 100+ expert-led multimedia courses, intensive training workshops, Spanish language training, Leadership Live at 8:05 live stream and podcast, in-person Power Breakfast events, and advisory coaching, consulting, and training services. All right, welcome back. I'm here with Anthony Conover, talking small business. Our topic tonight is working on the future of your business. And Anthony, you introduced yourself, but I want you to just share a little bit more about your origin. So now, why did you start your business, and what did you do before starting your business?
Yeah, so I've always had a goal, to be an entrepreneur. Never fully understanding the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person. So a business person is a person that focuses on a business, whereas an entrepreneur focuses on perhaps several businesses and several different lines of creating income streams. So in my case, I had my insurance and I had my Series 6 license. So I did some insurance and mutual funds, annuities, and so forth. But along the way, I started doing cleaning part-time before I got married. Never imagined that I'd ever do cleaning, but a buddy of mine just happened to, he was an accountant and he started doing cleaning part-time because he wanted to go into the ministry. So it gave him the flexibility to have more time towards his ministry. So along the way, I started cleaning part-time. And then around the end of 1997, I said I need to take just one direction. So I took, the direction and said, okay, let's pursue the janitorial end of the business. And I started off, as I said, with just one employee. And along the way, I picked up the Rite Aid drugstores, doing the floors there. So I picked up around 13 of those. And then along the way, just continued to, to grow the business. Grew it very incrementally, nothing great. And then in 2009, I hired a business coach, right? And she helped me to set some goals. And it's ironic that normally if you set goals and you visualize them and they're in writing, you tend to have the opportunity to hit those goals. So each year I just grew. And, so my goal was to get to 1 million in sales. So I hit 1 million in sales in 2013. And prior to that, I thought if you got to 1,000 in sales, that the game was over with. But I soon found out that that was just the beginning of growth. So each year we grew by like 15 to 20%. And then when prior to COVID, we were really on the roll, doing very well. And then when COVID hit, obviously we were all stymied by the fact that could no longer set appointments from the standpoint of going to see customers. There was the shutdown and so forth. So it hindered us for probably 3 years. So I will say that COVID probably set us back from being probably 2 or 3 years ahead of where we are now. Now our focus is to continue to move forward, continue to do business differently. And I think Andrew said something that was very powerful, or in his presentation, about developing a sustainable ecosystem, because it's very difficult to grow your business on your own. So you need talented people around you, knowledgeable people around you, and also people who hold you accountable. So here we are in 2026, and my goal is to, in 5 years, I want to grow the janitorial business to about, well, I won't say about, I'll say to 10 million. I want to grow the staffing business to 3 million. And I also want to develop a supply chain, whereas because we have a plethora of customers, to be able to be a one-stop shop for our customers, meaning that we want to provide, the products for them as well, the cleaning products, the paper products. And we currently have some property management companies who have a chain of large hotels. So I want to become a supply chain person so that we also develop a stream of income from there in terms of, paper products, cups, saran wrap, all the products that you find in the kitchen or a restaurant or a hotel. Hence, we're in the process of becoming linked with someone who has a system and a program that effectively helps a person to break into that end of the business and to grow that as well. And as I said, I also want to grow, the staffing end of the business, the cold storage end of the business. So in 5 years, there's a lot to accomplish. But the great thing is, 5 years is a short period of time in the stream of things. So that's where we're at, and where we're also looking to grow the business as well.
Okay, excellent. So yeah, no, you've done some really impressive things, and you've got even greater things ahead of you. So, and your business went along a lot of the key steps in the path at different stages and different speeds. But let me just walk through the path. at the end of the day, um, every business and every industry has to go through 5 steps within the to go from startup to scaling. But not only that, you as an entrepreneur business owner has to evolve through each of the 5 stages of evolution. And your business can only go as far as you're prepared to take it. So your evolution is going to determine your ability to go from one step to the next. And that's why so many business owners get stuck. Um, Going from working on the concept of your business, working in your business, working on your business, working on the future of your business, and scaling your business. And tonight we're going to talk about working on the future of your business, because that's really where Anthony is right now. And we can talk about, one, he successfully worked on his business. So we'll talk a little bit about how he was able to do that, because most business owners don't ever successfully do that. And then, what is he doing to work on the future, and what does that mean? So one of the keys is he has to evolve, just like any business owner, to be able to move from each of the steps. Evolving initially, you're more entrepreneur problem solver, going to becoming an employee supervisor as you open up. But in step 3, you have to become a manager that optimizes your business. And most people don't successfully do that, because you have to evolve significantly, and you have to incorporate analysis and numbers into what you're doing. And a lot of people fear that. From there, stage 4 is you have to become an executive. You have to bring in managers. And then stage 5 is scaling. But before you scale, you have to prepare to scale. And by working on the future of your business, that's what preparing to scale is all about. So, so definitely. And just to get a little clarity around what we're talking about, in step 3, each step you need to have a goal, which was implementing processes and procedures. A key challenge, your ability to manage effectively. Key organizational structure, setting up supervisors, and key leadership analysis. So let's talk about step 3 first. So, in this phase, one of the key skills for you was analysis. And was that a strength for you before? How did you evolve to be able to do the analysis needed to move your business forward and optimize it?
Well, it's interesting. I still feel like I'm still improving in that area. I definitely don't think, for one thing, it certainly wasn't a strength of mine, right? Because I'm more of an A personality, right? Just go get it done, set a goal, go ahead. And, but the analysis sometimes, can cause you to become paralysis by analysis, right? So it's a matter of trying to understand, just where you want to go, the amount of people that you need, and to grow that business and to get to that level, you have to analyze just what it's going to cost you in terms of hiring additional people, in terms of managers, supervisors, equipment, salespeople. Hence, there are several ways, to try to analyze, but analyzing was certainly not a strength of mine. It's an area that I still continue to have to work hard at, because by nature, I'm more of a hunter than a skinner, right? So I'm more effective at going to get the business and, ensuring that it runs effectively. But analysis really helps you to appreciate, how to scale it down to the point that, okay, maybe on this account, we don't need 5 people, 4 people can do it. and you have to try to implement some systems which in the long run will help to condense time frames, but also to make your business and your accounts more profitable. So in regards to your question, Andrew, no, I'm still a work in progress when it comes to the analysis. I'm okay with it, but there's still room for improvement.
Okay. Definitely. So, but you've done a nice job with it. You have to continually evolve, and at each step, your business needs more and more in-depth analysis.
Yes.
So, so now also one of the challenges in achieving step 3 successfully is your goal or your challenge is being able to manage effectively. And at this level, to make it, you have to evolve to be a manager. So you have to have employees and at least one supervisor. So how did was managing people something that you had experience in? How did you find it to, really move up a level and, build the trust in a supervisor to delegate? How did talk a little bit about those experiences?
Well, that's a great question. And essentially what happened is we were able to develop job descriptions for the supervisors, for the salespeople, and so forth. So the operations manager, the supervisors, the office manager, they all had job descriptions, and they were given time to obviously grow into those job descriptions. But once they were put in those positions, they were expected to meet certain criteria in terms of being able to fulfill those positions. So my mindset in those areas was, okay, if I'm hiring you for operations, that means that you're going to be effective enough that I don't have to do your job for you, because if I have to do your job for you, then there's a great chance that you're not the right person for the job. So fortunately for me, as I've grown my business, I've been able to get better quality people. And where I'm at now, I have quality people. However, because I have to grow, they have to grow also. So that's going to be, a very telling point in my business, is that as I'm continuing to grow, if my team or my key people who are part of the inner circle, if they're willing to grow along with me and they're willing to become very efficient and very effective at what they do. So I think it's very important that a job description is that's essential for helping a person to fulfill that, and that person has to continue to evolve in those positions. And for some people, they gravitate towards it. For some people, they tend to to resist it a little bit, and as they resist it, they're either going to change or you have to change your people. So fortunately for us at this point, very good team of people. However, for us to get to that next level and for us to be able to be a viable company where a private equity, or to the point where my business grows and maintains itself without me and even becomes more efficient without me, that's the glaring question or the glaring area that time is going to demonstrate if we're going to get to that level. And I feel extremely confident that we'll get to that level. However, each business has to build an infrastructure. They have to have ongoing training, and they have to have accountability. And eventually, KPIs are going to be essential to show just how effective I am as a leader as well as the people who we have in key positions. So that's how we've been able to get to the point that we are now, Andrew.
Okay, excellent, excellent. And, definitely seeing your company in option, in action, you do have a great team that gets the job done operationally. So, that's not easy to do, but setting clear expectations and giving them clarity of what to expect is critical. Too many business owners don't provide the employees what they need to be able to do a good job for them. And as a result, there's a lot of productivity loss and waste. And not only that, everything you do needs to be aligned. So, having the clarity, the job descriptions, everybody knows where they are, what they're supposed to do, what's expected. People generally want to do a good job for you, but you got to help them understand what that means and how, and give them the tools to do it. So definitely through the structuring processes and procedures, that's a critical step that you are able to do. And many business owners don't quite get to that successfully. So, definitely making it through there is key. I got a question from the audience.
Okay.
Because you talked about planning, and planning is essential. And they talked about the question is, how often should you revisit your long-term plan? What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think so. Short-term plans, right? I think are plans that should be done quarterly. Long-term plans, right? To me, I think it differs for each individual, right? So I think it depends on just where you are in your business and just where you are in your life, right? So, but to revisit your long-term plan, I think it has to be annually, because essentially what happens is if it's 5 years, that's too long. And if it's quarterly, that could be discouraging. So to me, I think annually, that you need to revisit your long-term plan. So it helps you to see just where you started, where you are, and the adjustments that you may need to make in order to achieve those long-term plans. And it may mean being realistic from the standpoint of really understanding just where you are, and the areas that you're strong in, the areas that you're not very strong in, and just what adjustments that you may need to make in order to achieve that long-term plan. So yes, I think it at least has to be annually for the long-term plan, because it gives you an idea of just how you're growing. Quarterly, I think, is a little short because that's short-term goals. So so annually, I think is the, from my perspective, is the ideal time to, to focus on a long-term plan.
Okay, makes sense. So excellent. So definitely appreciate that question. I'm just looking in the chat. We got a lot of comments and great questions. So we're going to try and get to all the questions. Actually, some of you are skipping ahead, so I'm not going to answer your question until we cover part of that topic. But I do see your questions and appreciate them. So keep the questions coming, keep the comments coming. Another question that came up that is the next step from the question you just asked is from Nick, and he wants to know, how do you personally stay focused on your long-term vision? There's a million distractions out there. How do you stay focused?
Well, I stay focused because when you talk about vision, right? So it's said in the scriptures that without vision, the people perish, right? So with the 140 to 150 people who are counting on you to deliver for them every day as a business owner, it forces me to stay focused. And I also say this, right? Um, I'm 59 right now. At 65, I want to be done. So, um, to me, I think you stay focused on your long-term vision by having this sense of urgency, by doing the things today that you have to do tomorrow, right? So don't put off for today. I mean, for tomorrow, what you should do today, because if not, then it becomes a vicious cycle of, okay, there's something else comes up. There's something else that gets in your way. So now focus, now you become a firefighter as opposed to a visionary. So to stay focused, have your goals written down. Take a look at those goals every day and see how close you are to them. And if you're hitting your goals too easy, it means that your goal or your vision is probably not long enough. So for me personally, I know where I want to be in 5 years. And you know what? I knew 10 years ago just where I wanted to be. But now there's a greater sense of urgency because that time frame has been condensed to 5 years. So yes, it is very important to stay focused on your long-term goals by having them written out, having them in front of you, and asking yourself every day, just what you did to help you achieve your long-term vision or goal.
Okay. Excellent. So, definitely, one of the key things that you're talking about is discipline. The further along your business goes along the path, the more disciplined you have to be as a leader. And especially discipline to put things in writing. You got to get it out of your mind so that you can look at it and improve upon it. And the second piece you mentioned was you look at it every day. So, that's another hallmark of discipline is, you do things consistently. So, definitely that's key. So, we talked about stage 3 and being able to successfully complete stage 3. So next we're going to pivot and take a look at stage 4 and completing stage 4, because that's the one that you're actually working on right now. But before we do that, just want to let people know about our upcoming events this month. So hopefully, if you're in the New Jersey area, hopefully you can join us. And even if you're not, maybe you may want to come to the New Jersey area. So March 19th and 20th, we have our masterpreneur breakfast on the 20th, and we have our power networking event the night before on the 19th. And here's a short video. Hi, Andrew here. I want to personally invite you to the upcoming Masterpreneur Breakfast on Friday, March 20th at the Galloping Hill Golf Course in Kenilworth, New Jersey. What makes this event special is not just the strategy, but it's the room. Entrepreneurs, advisors, lenders, and ecosystem partners building real relationships and having honest conversations about growth. Because businesses don't scale in isolation, they scale in community. This breakfast is about connection, collaboration, and creating real opportunities and have everyone moving forward. If you care about supporting small businesses or growing yours in the right way, join us. Click the link below to secure your seat, and I look forward to seeing you at the table. Okay, great. So hopefully you can join us. The link is in the chat, and definitely always a great opportunity. And then also, we've got our Power Network event on Thursday night, and actually that's going to be in Montclair at the Sankofa Cafe, which is a great venue. So, Thursday night in Montclair at the Sankofa Cafe, Friday morning at the park or at Galloping Hill Golf Course in Kenilworth, New Jersey. So hopefully we'll see you at one or both of the events. So excellent. So now let's talk a little bit about step 4, working on the future of your business. And this is sort of what your goal is. Your goal is you have to create a strategic growth plan. If you're going to scale, that means you have to grow rapidly. But before you grow rapidly, you need to optimize everything, or small problems become big problems really fast and can derail you. The key challenge is developing your leadership team. You're used to managing and making decisions. Now you have to find a manager or managers that you can trust to make the decisions, and you have to stop managing and not micromanage them, but coach them to help them be successful, which is very hard for a lot of business owners. Instituting managers above your supervisors and being able to lead and make an impact through them, and developing your coaching skills so you can do that more effectively. So that's really the key thing to be able to successfully work on the future of your business. So Anthony, we've been you've had long-term goals, but in this phase, I don't think you had the solution of how you were going to accomplish them, or you got to the point where you didn't have the path forward to accomplish your goals. So I think that's one of the first things we looked at initially. Talk a little bit about sort of where you got stuck, or how you got to the point where you need to regroup and figure out the next plan, because so I'll stop it there and let you.
Again, that's a great question, right? And I think it really called for some serious self reflection, right? Because to be able to have a goal or a dream that's big enough to encompass others, because to me, to grow a great company, you have to take other people along. So your goal and your vision has to be able to include other individuals. And if you're only operating at this level and you need to get to that level to grow your business to that point, that means that you have to improve as a leader. So I found myself, I was somewhat stagnant, and meeting with you has made me uncomfortable, because it's forced me to have to become better in areas that perhaps I wasn't as strong in, but it's also mandatory. So in order for me to achieve that 5-year goal, I have to continue to incrementally become better in all those areas as a leader. And then in conjunction with that, it's imperative that my people also become better. So there should always be a value gap between me and my people in terms of my vision, my skill set. Now, I don't want to become the best administrator, but I want to be effective as an administrator so that I understand what's going on. I don't want to be the best supervisor, but I should be great at understanding the role of a supervisor and helping the person to make adjustments in the area perhaps that they're not as efficient in. For a person that's the operational managers, same thing, totally understanding systems, structures, and so forth. And, office manager, maybe not being, my goal is not to be a great office manager, but fully understanding the role of an office manager and, perhaps intervening in areas that may have to to help that person to become more effective in that area. So my skill level and my knowledge, abilities, and more importantly, leadership has to continue to improve if I'm going um, to attract the right people, or to also take some of the people who I feel have some of the intangibles to help them to continue to become all that they want to become. So the goal is to see people maybe as they don't see themselves, but to help them to become the people that I like them become, or that I would like them to become if they only knew that they could become that person. So it's creating a vision for them, and also giving them the education and the support and the vision to help them to become that leader, or whatever capacity that person wants to become. And they see themselves as being bigger than they currently are. So that's where I'm at, Andrew, at this point, as I'm sure that you're aware of.
Okay, no, definitely, and thank you for sharing that, because that's so important. The key to sustainable growth is you got to start with yourself. You have to grow, and from there, then you grow your organization and your team, and then you can grow your market and your revenue. And if you don't do that in that order, then you're not going to grow sustainably, and you're going to hit bottlenecks and challenges that you could have avoided. So this stage is preparing to scale. So definitely putting in place the structure, because once you start scaling, you don't have time to put the structure in. So you have to think about it and plan for that first. So definitely that's important. Also, you've had supervisors, but you don't really have managers, do you?
I'd say there are folks who are managers. So there's one
Okay.
who's a manager, but I have two great supervisors who I need to duplicate, because they are growing into great managers.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to duplicate them with someone perhaps who's under them, or to hire someone, who can take on their roles, because they become great supervisors, but they've shown me the capacity that they want to become more, that they want to do more. So it's my obligation to ensure that they can reach their potential, because if I don't enable them to do that, another company will.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
we've invested too much time into these people at this point to allow that to happen. So yes, we have to grow managers now.
Definitely. And one of the biggest challenges is you have to balance so many things as you go through this process, because you're hiring people, so you got to continue to grow your revenue.
Yes.
You got to develop people. You're spending money before money's coming in sometimes, so that can create cash flow issues. And then you got to develop yourself. So it's a balancing act that's not easy to do. But also, when you're making people managers, you got to give them what they need to be successful. Absolutely. And at this stage, for a manager to be successful, they need to be able to make good decisions. But the key to making good decisions is having good information. And two components that trip people up are, one, too much information in the owner's brain, so that the managers can't manage because they don't have the information they need to manage successfully. But the other piece is putting in place tools that can provide the information valuable, timely information that they need as well to be able to manage, like keep KPIs, so that you can delegate and um, and they can know what to do and make good decisions. And that's one of the things we're in the process of now. And if you want to share a little bit about that, actually, let me go to the questions first. Let's see, but that's one of the key things that we're looking at. So we've got a lot of great questions, and Karen, she's going to be reaching out to you afterwards. So definitely connect with him on LinkedIn. You got his LinkedIn info in the chat as well as the website, and I'm sure Anthony would be glad to chat with you. Karen's in the same industry, but she's out in Pittsburgh doing great things. So let's go back to the questions. Okay. So we've sort of answered this, but I just want to put it up from Bob. What signs show a business is stuck in firefighting mode?
Well, if you find yourself doing the same things that you were doing a year ago, if you find yourself still struggling to get past certain plateaus in your business, if you're not having growth, if you're putting out fires by your firefighting mode, means that you're so busy working in your business that there's no time to work on your business because you're trying to fix the things, trying to fix people, trying to fix processes, trying to cater to customers. So that's a sure sign. Those are sure signs that you're stuck in firefighting mode.
Okay, definitely. And then we talked about, strategic planning, and actually, strategic plan is much different from a business plan because it's really about identifying, how to grow significantly, and you're expanding beyond your initial business plan. So, in that, you've got to look at growth opportunities, but also there's distractions. So how do you identify what are real growth opportunities for you and what may be distractions?
Yeah. So, that's a great twofold question, right? So, first of all, I think as a business owner, in terms of opportunities, I think you have to take an hour a day at least, probably 2 hours if you can, to focus on your business in the areas that you really want to grow in. And right, and develop, and in that 2 hours or the hour, whatever it is, you have to focus on the areas that you're looking to grow your business, the opportunities that you're looking to pursue. Perhaps it's strategic alliances, someone who may be in your business that forms an ecosystem, or perhaps it's a different model of business that you're looking at. And in regards to opportunities versus distractions, well, it's a distraction if it takes away from your opportunities. So in other words, it's a distraction if you have to spend more time fixing problems and there's no real opportunity in what you're pursuing versus distraction. So I think a person has to take maybe a half hour a day to focus on distractions, whether it's phone calls that you have to make to customers, if it's dealing with employees, if it's checking emails and all those things, because sometimes those things are a distraction so much to the point that it takes up the bulk of your day. You're focused on things that don't make you money. So if you want to identify growth versus opportunities, if it's going to give you the opportunity to make money, it's an opportunity. If it's stymieing you from making more money, it's a distraction.
Definitely. And one of the things that you also need to do at stage 4, working on the future of your business, is you need to reevaluate your mission, your vision, and your values to bring greater clarity and greater focus, not just for yourself, but for your team, and to create the culture that you need to accomplish things. But with that mission, that can help you more easily determine what fits with your mission and what doesn't. There's plenty of opportunities out there that you could take advantage of, but what's going to get you closer to achieving your mission, so that everything in your business is aligned around your mission, your vision, and your values. So, definitely, those are key. Now, one of the challenges of the show is an hour's just not enough time to talk to great people like you. So, there's so much, in all those years of knowledge and wisdom, there's so much more that you've got in there. But I think we did a sufficient job with the time that we had, and definitely greatly appreciate you joining us tonight. I think it's going to be beneficial for a lot of people. But before I let you go, I just would like for you to share 3 key takeaways from our discussion tonight, because we talked about a lot of great stuff, but people can usually only remember 3 things. And if you can share 3 key things that people should think about and can start implementing tomorrow, that would be great. I'm going to play a short video that provides a minute for you to think about that, and then after the video, we'll have you come and share those. So let's talk about one of the most important things for every business, which is bookkeeping. You risk cash flow, tax, and profitability issues without timely, accurate financial records. Unfortunately, most business owners are not happy with their current bookkeeping situation.
Actually, our bookkeeper kind of left us. He actually got a job.
Many struggle with it themselves or have trouble finding the right help at a reasonable price. Even if you have a bookkeeper, there are often inaccuracies that can cost you money due to their lack of accounting knowledge and experience.
We had a lot of missing holes in our reporting. Things was a little hard to keep track of.
Fortunately, it doesn't have to be that way. That's why I incorporated small business-friendly bookkeeping into our service offerings.
Working with Andrew and Small Business Pro University was a very easy process. They really understood our numbers and our data very quickly and what needed to happen.
We meet you where you are, whether you want to switch to save money or need us to clean up past issues.
Since working with you, we've definitely been able to catch up on a lot of those missing holes and fill those gaps. So from a business standpoint, I'm able to understand my numbers a lot better.
Bringing everything current for tax and compliance purposes.
Along came Andrew Frazier. In a short period of time, they got us up to date, and now we're fine, and they're handling our bookkeeping.
Use the link below to schedule a complimentary discovery session to explore how we can help. www.sbprou.com/discovery. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose by scheduling a complimentary discovery session to explore how we can help at www.sbprou.com/discovery. Okay. Welcome back. We're here at Leadership Live at 8:05. We've had a great discussion with Anthony Conover, our special guest, and we talked about working on the future of your business. Anthony, what are the 3 key things that you want everybody to take away from our conversation this evening?
I think, number 1 is to be honest where you are in your business. Be honest where you are in your level of competency, right? But by being honest, then that helps you to at least understand the areas that you will need to improve on to get to the next level. The next thing is that you have to determine in your business just what type of business you want. You may not have the type of goals that I have for a business in terms of the size of the business, the number of people in place. Maybe it's you and a couple other people that you're happy with. And if that is the case, that's fine, right? But just make sure that all of those key people are trained very well, that they all understand, the vision of the company. They all understand that they have to be competent in the areas that they're involved in. And the third thing is it's very important that you continue to develop your ecosystem, right? Because for most small businesses, we don't have a go-to person or a mentor to go to. Me, I have Andrew, obviously. There's other people, but Andrew's been phenomenal in that area. So it's important to have an ecosystem of individuals who understand your business somewhat. They understand some of the challenges that um, you may be enduring. And then there's also a fourth thing that I have to add. Really understand your numbers in your business. Are you doing business just to do business? Or are you confident enough in your business that you should be able to charge prices that enable you to make a profit off your business because you're competent enough and you feel like you're deserving of that? Because it doesn't make sense to just be in business just to be in business. Um, Watch the numbers and ensure that you're profitable in your business as well. So those are just three things or four things, Andrew. Time just, I mean, it's obvious I can go on forever on certain points.
Okay. No, those are great. I mean, definitely, you know, you know, honesty and really, um, coming to terms with where you are. You can't have the right solution if you don't understand if it's not addressing the actual situation that you're in. So, I've seen business owners that nobody's worse than the worst that I've seen. So, so definitely, be honest. That's the only way you can really improve. Um, Setting your goals. You may have different goals, but they should be your goals and what you want to accomplish, and then line that up with your team and how you're going to achieve them. And then a ecosystem. Nobody succeeds alone. Everybody has support around there if you're going to succeed, especially succeed on a significant level. And developing that ecosystem, developing those relationships. I know you have relationships for 10, 20, 30 years that you can draw upon. So creating those long-term relationships so that there can be a trust level that will allow you to do business with them, but also that they're comfortable enough to refer you to others. And then finally, understanding your numbers, which is my favorite. And because you need to know if you're profitable, you need to know if you're charging enough, and you need to make sure that you're charging enough so that you're earning a return above just what it costs to deliver what you're doing and pay yourself. It should be a profit on top of that as well. So, Anthony, this has been great. Appreciate you coming on, sharing your experience, your knowledge. Definitely connect with Anthony on LinkedIn and reach out to him. He's a friendly guy, so you could probably tell that from his demeanor here. Anything you want to share before we close out, Anthony?
Yeah. Hopefully, there's everyone here. They're using you, I hope, right? Because I can tell you, like my first business coach, she was a great help. But I found that after a number of years, we were no longer compatible because I had reached my goals with her as far as I can go. So now with you, I'm looking forward to the next 5 years, right? So that when it's all said and done, I know that I'm unconsciously competent. I don't have to think about it because I know my business. I know the numbers. I know, the responsibility of everyone, so that if I had to go to Alaska, that I could take my knowledge and my concepts and my system and take them anywhere. They said there's no sound.
No, I can hear. We can hear you.
Okay, yeah. So that's really what it boils down to, is becoming competent enough so that we are able to fulfill our jobs effectively, and that we can go anywhere and develop ecosystems maybe outside of our comfort zone, to reach our goals.
Okay, definitely. So, in business, your business has to evolve and your team has to evolve.
Yeah.
And that's across the board. And not only that, your financial management team has to evolve. So, it's important to keep that in mind and continue to move forward and build upon the knowledge you have and make sure that you're continually learning in all areas. So thanks again, Anthony. If you can hang out for a minute after we close out, and we'll go from there. So, hey, everybody, always appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for your questions, your comments, and really, got a lot out of this conversation with Anthony, and hopefully you did too. So definitely great takeaways, and just some insight on to how to, achieve step 3, working on your business successfully, and then what to do going forward, because it's, continuous path, and there's always opportunities to move forward as well. So thanks again, Anthony, for that. And actually next week, our guest is Gene Bohinski once again. We've been doing a series with him because he's taken his business through all 5 steps of the masterpreneur journey. And we've had a show on each of the steps. So this final show is going to be on scaling and managing your growth during scaling, because, each phase, there's different challenges, goals, structure, and abilities you need to have. So looking forward to that next Tuesday night. So hopefully you can join us then as well. If you missed some of his earlier ones, you can go back and watch the recordings. And so look forward to catching you next week. And always remember, at the end of the day, the more that you know, the faster and more successfully your business is going to grow.
Thank you for listening to Leadership Live at 8:05, Talking Small Business. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and to the podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Leadership Live is one of the many valuable resources provided through the Small Business Pro University, empowering business owners to learn, profit, and grow. Find out more at sbpro.u.com.